Well, good morning, everyone. And once again, welcome to another live, and hope we're having a great day, a good start to the day. Hope you've had your coffee and your vitamin C. John, good morning to you. And Shirley and Brenda, nice to have you on with us, and Happy New Year. I'll continue to say it, first week of January. Michael and Andrea and Maddie and Jeanette and Rosa, good morning to you. Diane, Suzanne, and Linda and Nellie, good morning to you. Hope you're having a great day. From Andrea from Nouveau Brunswick, Donna, good morning to you. Jane. Okay, and Jerry, nice to have you on. Heather, good morning to you. Ruby, Pat, Laurie, Kincardine, beautiful area. Fred, Colleen, Nellie, Elaine, good to have you on this morning. Jocelyn, bonjour. Sturgeon Falls, Marianne, and Lorraine, and Yolande, good morning. Morris from Wawa. Okay, Nicole, and another Donna, good to have you on. Dan and Morel. Okay, I'm going to get going. This morning, we're going to talk about, good morning, Lee, how are you? We are going to talk about, continue on the benefits of the reset, benefits of cutting out all sugars for 30 days. Cut it out. And we talked about this yesterday. We'll do part 2 today, because there's sort of some, things that maybe not as obvious. We talked about some obvious things yesterday, like weight loss, of course. And the number one reason people do the reset is weight loss. Now, I'm not going to say it was never meant for it. It is a good side effect of this way of eating, because if you need to lose weight, it's the healthiest way. I don't know if it's the easiest, but I don't want you counting. It's not calories. It's not macros. It's not any of that. Because a lot of people are into counting those type of things. I'm not into that. The basic theory is you're reducing carbs to nothing, and you're replacing the carbs. Because a lot of times, and even keto is just lowering carbs. But here it's nutrient dense food. And I'm always trying to convince you that your body thrives with nutrient dense food. There's nothing better than a steak. There's just nothing better on the planet. Okay, liver. But there's nothing better than that on the planet. And I was mentioning this yesterday because people, they don't understand it, because they've really been brainwashed over the last several years especially. And I hear it every day, that meat is bad for you, especially red meat. Well, you know what? There's never been a study, and I'm just going to say this, there's never been one study, including the China study, which I talked about last question and answer. There's never been a study showing that red meat is no good for you. Now, there have been studies, but they're all observational, meaning that, and those are not the gold standard of any study. Observational studies can give you any conclusion that you want. So, for example, oh, look at that guy down the street there. I'm going to do a questionnaire with him, okay? What did you eat last week? Oh, you ate red meat and you got cancer? Well, it's the red meat that caused cancer. I mean, that, with a little bit more sophistication than that, they come to conclusions without, for example, oh, do you smoke? Right? Do you drink 5 Pepsis a day? Do you exercise? None of that comes into the study. But they want to focus in on meat. So what they do is, unhealthy people, and then they come to their conclusions, but they don't look at all of it, and they're observational. How many times do you eat red meat? Oh, I don't know. A lot of people, if you ask them, they can't even remember what they ate yesterday, never mind what they ate last week and a month ago and 6 months ago. But they're blaming the bun for what the hamburger, you know what I mean? They're blaming the hamburger for what the bun is doing. Because they're not taking that into consideration at all. And I know, listen, there are a lot of people that disagree with what I just said, including my own colleagues, my gurus in the healthcare field. But I'm going to just emphasize this again. Just use this upstairs here just for a minute and hear me out. Just think about this for a minute. If only in red meat there is B12, L-arginine, L-carnitine, if only in there, heme iron, H-E-M-E, iron, which is the iron your body needs to produce red blood cells. If that is only found in red meats, not in the vegetable kingdom, it's not there. There's not enough B12 to feed a mouse in vegetables or in any other, like in chicken. There just isn't. So I'm a simple guy. I'm simple. Do thinking in your mind and go, well, like I talked to someone yesterday. Should I take B12, doc? Well, I said, what's your numbers? Well, they didn't know. I said, do you eat red meat? He said, no. I said, well, you better take B12 because you're not getting it. So one of the biggest advantages of a nutrient-dense diet is B12 and heme iron. I can't tell you ladies how important those 2 vitamins are for you. Hormonally, to make blood, for your energy, it's essential. What have I been saying for the last 20 years? One of the biggest deficiencies in society is B12. Oh, doc, my numbers are, I'm within normal limits. Yeah, but you should be optimized in B12. Your B12 should be high, not low. It shouldn't even be in the middle. I like between 800 and 1200 in your blood. Because without B12, you're not going to get enough nitric oxide. You don't get enough nitric oxide, your blood vessels don't open properly. Do you think that's important? Without B12, you're not making red blood cells. You know what red blood cells carry? oxygen. Do you think that's important? No, but guys, listen, here's where I come from. Look, sometimes you have to take a B12 supplement even if you're eating red meat because you might not be absorbing the B12 like you should. But at the end of the day, all of your vitamins are in food. A little bit of vitamin D, a little bit of vitamin D. The sun is really the carrier of, where you get most of your vitamin D, but, good luck. But, like, I don't use the word Eskimo anymore, the Inuit, how do they get vitamin D? They eat blubber. They eat animal product. They eat fish. They eat seal. They eat their whale, and they eat their blubber. That's how they get it. They get vitamin D from that. Cod liver oil. They eat the liver. They get vitamin D and vitamin A. So that's the point I'm making. That's the point I'm making. So look, I'm not going to come off of it. I won't come off of this, red meat is good for you. I won't come off of it. I'm going to tell you, repeat. And you might think, hey, you're entitled to your opinion. Vegans, they're entitled to their opinion. And vegetarians, they're entitled to their opinion. They really are. And they're welcome on our site. Just be nice. Don't be cruel. Like I told you, it's more religious. I could tell you the long story of it, where it's coming from. But at the end of the day, I can't apologize. So yesterday we talked about weight loss. Yesterday we talked about, obviously this diet was originally created for diabetes. We talked about it, complete remission. Remission. I don't like the word cured because you can't go into, you can't cure diabetes in 30 days and then go back and eat the way you feel like it, or you'll be a diabetic all over again. And by the way, most people don't even know they're diabetics, and they already are. Because the old way of testing was the best way of testing, not blood sugar. Not blood sugar. Not that I dismiss blood sugar, I don't. But the best test is urine. The old-fashioned way. My daddy used to smell urine. You smell that sugary? You got sugar in the urine. Urine doo-doo. You're diabetic already. I don't care what your blood sugars are. Who made that up, by the way? It's just an average. And the first step to diabetes, remember, diabetes is the last thing that happens to the human body. It's the last thing. But there's a road before diabetes, and that road starts with elevated insulin. Diabetes is not caused by sugar. It's caused by insulin resistance. When you're eating too much sugar and crappy carbohydrates. Okay, so we talked about that. We talked about Alzheimer's yesterday. The modern day scourge in our society today is Alzheimer's. And if you're honest, and if you've seen someone that lose their memory, it's a huge concern to you. It is. But I'm telling you, I'm telling you, because you won't hear this. The biggest thing you can do to protect your brain is to change your diet. Every time you eat sugar, every time you have a slice of bread, every time that you eat carbs that are going to be sugar, you are asking for trouble for your brain. And I gave you the mechanism yesterday. The mechanism of how the sugar saturates your hippocampus, the memory center of your brain. And when you get insulin resistance, remember what insulin resistance is. Your cells are going, ooh, stop, I can't stand you anymore. You have a bad relationship with carbs. And insulin, your cells go, you know what, insulin? You're like a bad neighbor. You're in my house all the time, and I can't stand you. The Bible talks about that. Don't go to your neighbor's house too often. They're going to end up despising you. You know what I mean? A bad neighbor that, you're trying to do something and they're in your house. Well, that's insulin. You eat carbs, squirt, 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 squirt. Insulin must do its job. Insulin has no choice. You had a carbohydrate, insulin must take that sugar out of your bloodstream. It's got no choice. That's its job. And so if you eat carbs, I don't care. And look, I'm not saying you're never going to eat carbs. I'm just telling you, if you live on carbs, like most people do in North America, most people do, they don't realize they are up to 200 pounds, a dump truck load of sugar a year, a dump truck. And there's nothing more damaging to your brain than sugar. Now, there's other factors in the brain, like the environmental factors and heavy metals or whatever, but I'll tell you something. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. The one thing you can control, you can't control everything in life. We found that out with this virus, right? You can't control everything in life. But you can control what you put in your mouth every day for food. You can. And this is the most, because what happens remember what I talked about insulin resistance? Your cells go, hey, I've had it with you, bad neighbor. Quit coming here. But insulin can't help but come there. As long as you're eating sugar, it'll squirt more and more and more to do the same job that it used to do maybe a month ago or 2 months ago with this much insulin. Now it needs that much insulin to open up the cells. But in the brain, it's even worse. You know why? Because if you get insulin resistance in the brain, you have what we call a blood-brain barrier. The barrier is around to protect your brain from things coming in that don't belong in the brain. The problem with sugar is your brain is headquarters. And if that's what you're eating, brain goes, hey, you pay me first. It's headquarters. So let's say you have a chocolate bar, okay? Your brain goes, hey, 20% of that is mine before the other cells in the body get anything. You just had look, the brain will only feed itself on what you're eating. So it goes, hey, I want 20% of that. It's like the government. What's for sure? Death and taxes. You're going to pay tax, right? You go to the store and buy something, 13% HST in Ontario, in Canada. You know what I mean? But your brain's like that. It takes 20% of your nutrition. It don't matter what kind it is. Your brain says, hey, I'm headquarters. I get that. I need to operate. Give me 20%. And the problem with insulin resistance is that barrier will always allow sugar across. Always. Because the brain says, give me, give me, give me, give me, give me. But insulin's job is to go get that sugar out of your brain and say, come here, can't stay there. Okay? Don't, come here. I'm going to park you somewhere else. Don't stay in the brain. You know what the blood-brain barrier does? Once you get that bad neighbor thing, your blood-brain barrier says to insulin, can't come across here anymore. I won't let you come across. I'm protecting the brain. That's what your blood-brain barrier does. And it won't allow insulin to go in and get that sugar. So guess what sugar does? It saturates especially the hippocampus. It saturates those cells and causes them to shrink. Sugar causes cancer to grow, but your brain cells to shrink. Guys, that's why they named Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. It really is diabetes of the brain. It is. You see how important food is? Now, I know I'm preaching to you guys and you understand this, but I have to emphasize it again. It's the thing you can control. So we talked about that, Alzheimer's. I'm sorry I'm going slow. Heartburn. We talked about that yesterday. We talked about triglycerides and HDL yesterday. Okay? I hope you understood that teaching. This is how your body works. I was reading an article yesterday about cholesterol. Because if you were a doctor in the 1950s, cholesterol, who cares about that? That's not heart disease. Cholesterol became an official enemy. It started in the 70s with the change a little bit in the 60s, but don't eat bacon and eggs. Although in food, cholesterol became an enemy. But by the time the pharmaceutical industry developed a medication for it, it was 1984. A bad year. Now, I usually don't rail against medications. If you need them, you need them. But faulty science created statin drugs. And LDL, cholesterol. You know what HDL is? You know what HDL is? It's high density lipoprotein. You know what that means? You want high cholesterol. You want the wagon. You want dump trucks. You want transports on the highway of your blood vessels. That's what, it does a lot more than that, but HDL is meant to look for triglycerides, bad fats, and hitch their wagon to them and take them out of your body. The more look, if you don't eat cholesterol is found in the animal kingdom only. Let's say you don't eat it. You're a vegetarian. You don't eat cholesterol. Maybe you eat some eggs. Okay. But vegans. The body your liver makes cholesterol, 85% of it. 15%. Oh, I go, God wants you to eat 15%. Can you do that? He'll provide 85% out of your liver. 85% of your liver cholesterol is made in your liver. Doesn't come from food. Well, it does in a way. I always tell people it does in a way because you are what you eat. But on the other hand, your body will make 85% of your cholesterol. It's relying on 15% to come from your diet, guys. How can you have a healthy brain without cholesterol? Someone calls you fathead, take it as a compliment. Your brain is cholesterol, for heaven's sakes. Your nerves are cholesterol, for heaven's sakes. Your cells are cholesterol. The walls of your cells are cholesterol. Your hormones are made up of cholesterol. My word, we made it a boogeyman. Oh, I'm getting my workout again. Okay. Here's another symptom that gets better for most people when you cut sugar out of your diet and you replace your crappy carbohydrates with nutrient-dense food. You know one thing that I found? Headaches. Headaches. Now listen, a lot of people get headaches because of insulin. Inflammation. Their brain is inflamed and they have no idea why. Now, there's other reasons. One of them, big reason, is dehydration, which will inflame your brain. That's because you're not drinking enough water. A lot of people don't, you know. Dr. Martin, I don't like water. Who says you gotta like it? You need it. It's a vitamin, W. You need water. But headaches, they often go away on the reset. You get migraines. You got too much estrogen. Ladies, that's how you get a migraine. Too much of a woman. Plus a combination of a bad diet. PCOS. You know what PCOS is? Polycystic ovarian disorder. It's when fibroids, you got bad skin, well, you got to start in your gut. But I'm telling you, when you get on the reset, eliminate one thing, replace. It's elimination, replace. It's amazing what happens to your skin. Hormones get better. Headaches get better. That's why I recommend the reset for... Doc, should I do the reset? Yes. I get your dog to do it. The reset. It's amazing to me how people usually, although I don't know if I was watching a movie the other night, the guy was giving the dog a cookie. No, but they eat better than we do. Okay. PMS, all hormonal. Get better with food. Because you get a better balance between your estrogen and your progesterone. That's why PCOS, like PCOS, you know what PCOS is? It's that growth. And you know, it's a terrible thing, but it's really diabetes. It's sugar, man. Because there's too much sugar, too much estrogen. That's PCOS. What a difference. So ladies, hormonally, I've seen a lot of people even in menopause, much, much less symptoms. They feel better. They feel better. Anti-aging. I'll tell you, folks, there's nothing more toxic than sugar. It'll age your skin. It'll age your skin. Your skin, by the way, is just an organ that you see. It's your largest organ. What goes on inside will appear outside. And it's amazing when you're eating all the amino acids, all essential amino acids, the building blocks of your body, the building blocks of protein, they're all available in eggs, meat, and cheese. There's not one missing, not one. Again, I try to explain that to people. Well, Doc, what about, I need vegetables. And I'm not saying don't eat them. Well, for 30 days you don't. But I'm just telling you, you got everything you need. Everything. Everything. Every amino acid. All essential amino acids. They're all in there. You're not missing one of them. Eliminate, replace. Eliminate, replace. There was a study done on anxiety and depression. This is interesting. Sweet tooth. Okay, if you have a sweet tooth, 23% more likely to develop an emotional disorder. Now, this has to do with your cortisol. This has to do with your cortisol. I wrote that book years ago. 2 hormones that want you dead, insulin and cortisol. Too much insulin wants to kill you, and too much cortisol wants to kill you. But they go together. The diet is an important factor. It's amazing when you eat better. Even in the world that we live in, which is full of anxiety. I'm going to do a teaching on this because there was a new study yesterday. Or maybe, yesterday was Monday. I read a new study about depression. Incredible, but it's exactly what I've been telling you. Anyway, I'll go into that in another study because it's so fascinating. I want to go in and give you some detail on this new study on depression. And my word, are we ever seeing a lot of depression today? And what are they saying in the United Kingdom that it's up about 300% since the virus, the depression. And the antidepressants that are giving out are like candy. Okay. In anti-aging, you know what this diet does? When you lower your crappy carbs and sugars, get rid of them, and then, and I mentioned this in the book. And by the way, we got another release of books coming out tomorrow, by the way. So if you haven't got your copy of that book, please. The reviews on the book have been tremendous. Okay? Tremendous. So all of the things I'm talking about here are in the book. But anyway, when you lower your crappy carbs and your sugars, and again, not on its own. This is important. Remember, when you do that, so if you do that in keto, that's good. There's nothing wrong with it. But again, when you put your cells into overdrive because of giving them the right nutrients, you know what happens? You lengthen your telomeres. You know what your telomeres are? They're little like wick-like on your chromosomes or your DNA. And the shorter your little wicks are, the less you're aging quickly. But you can lengthen the wicks. You can lengthen them in 30 days. 30 days. The anti-aging effect of the reset. It's incredible. You lengthen your telomeres. Fascinating. Okay. I got excited. Not like me, is it? Okay. So, thanks for watching. Okay. We appreciate it big time. New book out tomorrow. Okay. So you'll get an email. If you're not on our email list, I'll announce it tomorrow morning. We got another tranche of books that have come out. So, you know, again, the reset, metabolic reset, the diet your doctor won't share with you, coming out tomorrow. 2, ask your questions. Okay, I'll try and come in on the private Facebook group, you know, once or twice a week. I'll come in and just give you a little bit of pumping tires. But I'm going to, if it's questions on the reset, I'm going to sort of try and take note of that and answer those questions when I come into the private group. So if you're not part of that private group, join. You can get your friends, you can get your family, whatever, get them to join that group. It's a private group. People love that group on Facebook. It's a great community of really people. It's like a family in there. I love it. Okay. And you guys, if you have any questions for question and answer Friday, generalized questions, fire them off to me. Okay. And we'll take care of that on Friday. Okay. Love ya.